3, 2, 1.
Hey boys and girls, Chad here with How You Liking Games, doing another beginner's tips. Today we're going to talk about some mechanics. We're going to talk about Scavenge, we're going to talk about Exalted, and we're going to talk about FlipCards. These are all abilities that you're going to run into while playing tournaments at your Friday Night Magic, and they're all pretty prevalent in the format, so they're things that you need to know how to deal with. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Scavenge. And what Scavenge does is, if a creature with Scavenge is in your graveyard, you can pay the Scavenge cost, and it's different on all the cards. You pay the Scavenge cost, and you remove it from your graveyard, and you put the creature's power as +1/+1 counters onto another creature you control. So let's say you had this Sublime Archangel in play, and this was in your graveyard, the Soul Switch Scorpion was in your graveyard, it has a Scavenge of 3. You could pay 3, exile it from your graveyard, and put 2 +1/+1 counters on this angel. Now, one very important thing to note about Scavenge is you can only use it as a sorcery. So it's not like a combat trick. You can't just like attack and then go, oh, you didn't block, and make your guy huge. You can't do that. So people can see it coming. It's still very good because it gives you something to do with your mana if you have nothing to do. And another thing to know about Scavenge, like someone Pillar of Flames this guy, which what Pillar of Flame does is it does 2 damage and would exile the creature if the creature dies. Anything that exiles, like if this guy dies and gets exiled, you can't use the Scavenge, so then he's useless in the graveyard. So, I mean, but that's pretty much it for Scavenge. It's pretty straightforward. Just know that you can only use it as a sorcery, it's not instant speed. So the next thing we'll talk about is Exalted. And Exalted is interesting, because what Exalted does is, if you have creatures, let's say you have 2 creatures in play, but this one attacks alone, then it gets +1/+1. And now what's interesting about Exalted is, it doesn't have to be this creature that attacks alone. It could be this creature, even if this is the one with Exalted. This guy would get +1/+1. What else is interesting about Exalted is it stacks. So if both of these creatures had Exalted, like Sublime Archangel gives them both Exalted, then attacking with just this would give it +2/+2, which would make it a 6/5 flyer, to whereas if you attacked with both, Exalted wouldn't trigger and you would still be attacking for 6. So Exalted lets you be able to attack and leave a guy back to block. So another thing about Exalted is when you attack, it triggers. It's not immediately a 6/5, it's a 4/3 with the Exalted ability on the stack, so people can respond to it. They can try to kill it before, like if they want to deal 3 damage to this 4/3 before the triggers go off. So that's probably the only tricky thing with Exalted. Just know that it doesn't matter which creature attacks, the Exalted still triggers. And the last thing we're going to talk about today is FlipCards. And FlipCards are a very interesting mechanic. It was introduced in Innistrad. What they do is, I have another one here, is they have a front and a back side. And I'll take these out of the sleeve so you can see. So this is the front side on these cards, and this is the back. And there are different ways that you get cards to flip. So all the werewolves flip in the same way, and what that is if no one casts a spell on a turn, on their next upkeep, it flips over on the back. And then when it's on the back, if someone casts 2 spells on the turn, the same player, then on the next upkeep, it flips back over. And all werewolves work that way. And you're going to see werewolves more than any other flip card in Standard right now. So that's pretty much the most prevalent way you're going to see cards flip. There's also cards like Screeching Bat, to where during your upkeep you can pay a certain amount of mana, like this guy, you can pay 4 during your upkeep and flip him over, and he becomes from a 2/2 flyer to a 5/5 without flying. And then on your upkeep you can pay 4 and flip him back down, he's back to a 3/2. But just know with flip cards that a lot of times abilities will trigger when they flip back and forth, and you need to watch out for the upkeep, because almost all cards that flip on the upkeep. So that's all you can really say about flip cards, because they're so different. But if you play against them, just pick them up, read both sides, and realize that you need to pay attention to your upkeep and your opponent's upkeep. So that's it today for beginners tips. I hope this helped some of you figure out what's going on with some of these cards, and we'll see you next time.